In this section, we will look into the reasons why, in most years, a significant percentage of workers are unemployed. That is, people who want to work, they need to work, they're able to work, but they can't find a job. We will also examine in this section the business cycle, the ups and downs in the economy, and policies to combat both unemployment and the recessions that occur in one phase of the business cycle. This slide shows some information about the official unemployment rate and a broader measure of unemployment in the U.S. economy. The numbers are for September 2017. The official narrow unemployment rate at that time was 4.2%, which means out of all the people who are willing and able to work in the U.S. economy and considered to be in the official labor force, 4.2% were unemployed. A broader measure, which takes account of people who have given up actively looking for work because they have had difficulty finding it or they're only employed part-time, the rate would be 7.7%. Those may not seem like very big percentages. Consider the absolute numbers. 6.8 million workers were officially counted as unemployed, and as many as 13.5 million are unemployed by the broader measure of those who really would like a job but have not been able to find one. The unemployment rate varies quite substantially from year to year, as this figure shows. It gets as low as 4% at times, which was the case in the year 2000, and which was the rate in late 2018. But it also gets as high as just under 10%, the rate in 2010, following the financial crisis of 2008. Unemployment has a variety of different types of costs. First of all, to the unemployed and their families. They experience lost income, declining skills over time, health problems, even suicides. A study found that worldwide unemployment causes 45,000 suicides each year, a significant cost of unemployment. There are also costs to workers who are not unemployed from the existence of unemployment because employed workers worry that they'll be next to lose their job. It means increased insecurity for workers who are working. Then there is the lost output. Workers who want to work, who are able to work but are not working, means that society loses or does not gain the output that they could have produced were they able to get jobs. This is an estimate of the foregone GDP, the output that could have been produced if the unemployed were all working, compared to a few other aggregate expenses in the economy. The lost output in 2013 was about $700 billion for the year. Compare that to the whole defense budget, only a bit larger, $778 billion. All the welfare spending in the US economy, $390 billion compared to the lost output. All education spending, $121 billion. This gives you an idea of the magnitude of that cost. Economists debate about the nature of unemployment. Is it voluntary on the part of those who are unemployed or not? According to one view, unemployment is the result of individual choices, such as willingness to accept jobs, how strong a person's work ethic is, whether people have gotten the education they need to be hired for the jobs that are available. Another view is that unemployment is caused by forces outside the control of individual workers. These different views are associated with two different approaches to analyzing the economy. According to the mainstream neoclassical theory, the unemployed are in that condition, in that situation, because they're not willing to work at the going wage. And therefore, in that sense, it is voluntary. Political economy theory argues that the unemployed are willing to work at the going wage, but not enough jobs are available. This matter will be explored more fully in the other resources for this course. The economy has business cycles, that is, periods of expanding output and periods of declining output, known as recessions. This graph shows the ups and downs symbolically of the economy and the business cycle with a trend going upward. Recessions, which occur periodically in the economy, have a number of costs to society. First of all, unemployment goes up sharply, and all the costs associated with unemployment result. But it affects not just working class people. Small businesses fail in recessions, even those that were perfectly efficient and would have been profitable had it not been for the recession. Public services are cut back due to declining tax revenues. In the 1930s, John Maynard Keynes, one of the most influential economists of the last few centuries, proposed a new theory of recessions and depressions and why they happen. His main claim was that a recession results when the total demand for the goods and services in the economy declines, when it's too low, and that leads to declining output and rising unemployment. Keynesian theory, as it's called, it's not pronounced Keynesian, it's pronounced Keynesian, became part of mainstream economics after World War II. According to Keynes, aggregate demand, the total demand for the output of the economy, has three main sources. First of all, consumer spending by households, when they buy the food, clothing, housing, etc. that they need. Second, spending by businesses for investment, where here investment means spending for newly constructed buildings and newly produced equipment, and software is also, computer software is also included in business investment. Third source of aggregate demand is government spending. Now, consumer spending is relatively stable. It tends to rise a bit each year. Sometimes it falls a bit, but not by a very large percentage. On the other hand, investment spending by businesses is not stable. If investment spending falls, then firms will find they cannot sell all that they produce. As a result, they reduce output and employment. This figure shows at the time of the 2008 and following financial crisis and Great Recession, in the first year of that crisis, the blue, which shows consumer spending, it fell less than 1%. Business investment fell a bit more, but still less than 1%. But in 2009, while consumer spending fell relatively sharply for that figure, 2%, business investment spending fell by 18%. So this illustrates the instability of business investment, which is always based on expectations about the future, about their future profits, about how much they can sell, something which they can only guess at. Keynes did not just diagnose the cause of a recession, he also argued that there was a solution that involved government. The government can solve this problem and bring full employment, the condition when all the workers who want to work and are able to work have jobs. The government can bring full employment through its control of spending, taxes, the money supply, and interest rates. There are three tools government can use. First, increased government spending will mean more demand for goods and services and more output and employment. Reducing taxes on households will leave them with more income to spend, and that will also boost output and employment. And finally, the Federal Reserve, America's central bank, can lower interest rates through its control over the money supply and interest rates, and this will encourage businesses to invest more. All of these measures would tend to work against a recession that was developing, although Keynes argued it was the first, increased government spending, that would be most effective. In fact, He pointed out that when the government increases its spending, say by $10 billion, this has a more than $10 billion effect on output. There's a multiplied effect, estimated to be about a factor of 2. So a $10 billion increase in government spending will lead to about a $20 billion increase in outputs. In other resources in this course, the multiplier will be explained. The basic point is that increased government spending generates incomes for households, and they spend part of it on additional consumption. Now, when the government increases spending, and if it does so without raising taxes, if the government budget was initially in balance with taxes equal to spending, by increasing spending, the government runs a deficit. It spends more than its revenues. The government is able to finance this by borrowing from the public, who are happy to buy government bonds to finance the deficit, or the government can borrow from the Federal Reserve. Now, Keynes argued that the government should be able to bring full employment, but while unemployment has big costs, in a capitalist economy, full employment also causes problems. At full employment, workers have a lot of bargaining power, and wages tend to rise rapidly, and as a result, profits are likely to fall. And this may cause capitalists to stop investing and plunge the economy back into a recession. This shows that there are two problems that can cause unemployment and business cycles in a capitalist system. The first type of problem can be considered a failure of coordination. Individual firms make investment decisions independently without coordinating with each other in pursuit of their individual profit and without knowing what the others will do. But the net result, the total result of their decisions can bring a recession that then hurts all of them. That is a coordination failure. But there's a second problem, and that is class conflict. The unemployment rate affects the relative bargaining power of labor and of capital. And if the economy reaches full employment, which normally occurs only in a major war, capitalists cannot make much profits. Keynesian policy provides a potential solution to the coordination failures of government. The government can correct for this coordination failure of firms making decisions in the dark without knowing what others are doing through the government spending and taxing policies primarily. But it is not so easy to correct for the effects of class struggle on the level of output and unemployment.